But speaking of scoring, um, Kardashian gets with NBA player. I know, breaking news, breaking headline. We never have heard that one before. Um, Last night, in a glorious fashion, Kanye West,
He was on one
as
yesterday, man.
he's going down with the ship, decides he's going to take as many people with him as he can. Um, After, and I'm not even going to talk about everything that led up to this. Bottom line is quitting Twitter, but before he's out, said, "Hey, Chris Paul with Kim confirmed," and the internet lost their minds.
That was a very funny tweet. Look, Kanye said some stuff that's like, but bringing in Chris Paul as one of your last tweets to be like, yeah, I caught him in bed with Kim K. The Kardashian curse is here. No wonder he can't win a finals. The Kardashian curse is real. He can't win it. And guess what?
So sons are
Chris
dead.
Paul, probably not a great guy.
Well, people are saying Chris Paul spends a lot of time, you know, on State Farm commercials. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is
Cliff.
there. Cliff, yeah, with his twin brother Cliff. I think Chris Paul would be an awful neighbor. He sounds like the exact opposite of the person I would want living next to my home. You know,
Is he a fraud?
I'm going off to work and I'm like, oh, see you later, Chris. Yeah, and I gotta leave. And then, he's the exact person, the exact stereotype of somebody you don't want to be living next to. So
You don't know if he's going to be in your home when you walk back in.
if you come back in and he's in your home, it's a problem. And everyone's saying, Devin Booker and Chris Paul, the boys, like Devin Booker gave him the hookup. We have to remember, now granted, I have no idea the timeline of this. I have to assume that this happened when Chris Paul was in Los Angeles, because just in my brain, that's what makes sense.
I think that's a fair assumption.
But if he's not, if Chris Paul's commuting from Arizona if he was to make that happen, I mean, what are we even talking about here? That's a lot of work for Kim K, I feel like, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe he's hopping in that PJ, going Phoenix to LA.
Listen, John Wayne Gacy would be a better neighbor than Chris Paul. He really would. And Kanye, like I said, going down the flames every day. He's looking a little bit more like Clayton Bigsby. So yeah, it's a tough situation there. And Kanye, maybe one day you'll come back on Twitter. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what the outlook on that looks like. And I'm not really sure on any of this. But people are giving mad props to Chris Paul this morning. And I just want to say, terrible neighbor. And
nothing like having Aaron Rodgers and Chris Paul as your two spokespeople.
Not a great year for State Farm. And there was a time, you have to remember, there was a time where State Farm was going to have potentially the State Farm Bowl. Remember that? It was
How could I forget, Josh?
Patrick Mahomes, and people were going to say, "Hey, Aaron Rodgers wins. We were going to have the State Farm Bowl." It was going to be the biggest thing. State Farm was on top of the world. And now State Farm is like broken thumb, ayahuasca, guy who's breaking up households.
Pat Mahomes possibly tampering in the draft process.
When it was
not a great look.
Oh man, State Farm, you got to get your stuff together. And then also you go and you replace Jake, the original Jake. And listen, I love the new Jake. Everyone knows I love the new Jake. But the old Jake was Jake. So it's like you can't just he could be. What about Jim from State Farm? James from State Farm. Those all great names. Well, I guess James would be Jim, wouldn't it?